Welcome to the channel US Coins Lab, and today we are diving into something so extraordinary, so jaw-dropping, so unbelievably rare that even the most seasoned coin collectors in the world have lost sleep over it. And if you think you know everything about American silver dollars, I promise you, by the end of this video, everything you thought you knew is going to be turned completely upside down. Because what we are about to reveal today is not just a coin, it is a piece of living, breathing American history that has somehow managed to survive over a century of chaos, war, economic collapse, and the relentless march of time. And the fact that it still exists, the fact that it is still out there somewhere, possibly sitting in an old, dusty drawer, tucked inside a forgotten coin collection, or buried at the bottom of an antique jar in someone's attic. That is what makes this story so absolutely electric. So hold on tight, because we're starting this countdown right now. And trust me, you do not want to miss a single second of what is coming. The coin we are talking about today, starting our countdown at position number 3, is the legendary 1889 Morgan silver dollar. And before we go any further, let me hit you with a number that is going to make your jaw drop straight to the floor. This coin, depending on its condition, its mint mark, and its specific variety, has been valued at an absolutely staggering $232 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $232 million for a single coin that was originally worth just $1 when it left the United States Mint back in 1889. And that single fact alone should tell you everything you need to know about why today's video is going to change the way you look at every single coin you ever come across for the rest of your life. Now, before we go deeper into the 1889 Morgan dollar, I need to tell you something important. We have 2 more coins coming up in today's countdown, coins that are somehow even more mysterious, even more historically charged, even more valuable than what we're discussing right now. And I'm not going to give you the numbers yet. I'm not going to reveal what makes them so special just yet, because the suspense is part of the experience, and I want you to feel every single moment of this journey the way it was meant to be felt. So stay with us. Do not touch that back button, because what is coming next in this countdown is going to absolutely blow your mind. And I mean that with every fiber of my being. Now let us travel back in time, all the way back to 1889, a year that was absolutely pivotal in American history. This was the year that North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, and Washington all joined the Union as official states. It was the year the Johnstown flood devastated Pennsylvania and killed over 2,000 people. It was the year the Eiffel Tower was completed in Paris. And it was the year that the United States Mint was working at an almost frantic pace to produce silver dollars. Under the Bland-Allison Act, which required the government to purchase millions of ounces of silver every single month and turn them into coins. And this massive production push is exactly what makes the 1889 Morgan dollar so fascinating. Because while millions of these coins were struck across multiple mint facilities, including Philadelphia, New Orleans, San Francisco, and Carson City, the survival rate of high-grade specimens is shockingly low, and certain mint mark varieties from this year have become the holy grail of American numismatics. The Morgan dollar itself was designed by George T. Morgan, a British-born engraver who joined the United States Mint in 1876 and created what many collectors consider to be the single most beautiful coin ever produced by the American government. The obverse features a stunning left-facing portrait of Lady Liberty, wearing a Phrygian cap adorned with wheat and cotton, surrounded by 13 stars representing the original colonies. And the reverse depicts a majestic eagle with outstretched wings, clutching arrows and an olive branch, all framed by the inscription E Pluribus Unum. And when you hold one of these coins in your hand, when you feel the weight of that 90% silver composition, when you see the detail that Morgan put into every single line and curve of that design, you understand immediately why collectors have been obsessed with this series for over 100 years. But here is where the 1889 Morgan dollar gets truly extraordinary. The Carson City Mint, which was located in Nevada, right in the heart of silver country, produced a relatively small number of Morgan dollars in 1889, and the coins that came out of that facility, identified by the CC Mint mark on the reverse, are among the rarest and most sought-after coins in the entire Morgan dollar series. And when you find one of these 1889 CC Morgan dollars in pristine, uncirculated condition, in what Graders call mint state 65 or higher. You are looking at a coin that exists in perhaps single-digit numbers across the entire planet, and auction houses have reported frenzied bidding wars when one of these specimens comes to market, with collectors from around the world competing ferociously to add it to their collections. There's also the matter of errors and varieties that make the 1889 Morgan dollar even more complex and exciting for serious collectors. Mint workers in the 19th century were operating under enormous production pressure, and mistakes happened: double dies, repunched mint marks, over mint marks, clash dies, and a host of other varieties have been cataloged by researchers and attributed to the 1889 issue, and each of these varieties carries its own premium, its own story, its own piece of the incredible human drama that played out inside those mint facilities over 130 years ago. Imagine for a moment that you're a mint worker in Carson City in 1889. You are handling thousands of silver planchets every single day. You're operating heavy machinery in a loud, hot, dusty facility. You're under constant pressure to meet production quotas. And somewhere in that chaos, a die is used slightly off-center, or a mint mark is punched twice at slightly different angles. And that tiny, almost imperceptible mistake is going to make that particular coin worth millions of dollars a century and a half later. That is the magic, that is the insanity, that is the absolute wonder of coin collecting, and it is exactly why stories like the one we are telling today continue to captivate people all over the world. The auction history of top-grade 1889 Morgan dollars reads like a who's who of the most dramatic moments in numismatic history. Major auction houses have seen rooms fall completely silent when an 1889 CC Morgan dollar in gem, uncirculated condition has come up for bidding, and the final hammer prices have consistently shattered records and left even experienced dealers shaking their heads in disbelief. Because what you're bidding on in those rooms is not just a coin, it is irreplaceable. American history. It is a physical artifact from a time when the American West was still being tamed, when silver miners were pulling fortunes out of the Nevada earth, when the United States was expanding and growing and becoming the global power it would eventually become, and all of that history, all of that context, all of that weight is encoded into that small silver disc that fits in the palm of your hand. And here's the most thrilling thought of all. There are 1889 Morgan dollars sitting unrecognized in collections right now, coins that have been passed down through families without anyone realizing their true value, coins that might be sitting in old albums purchased at estate sales, coins that might be tucked inside paper envelopes in someone's safety deposit box, waiting for the day someone holds them up to the light and realizes what they actually have. And if you're watching this video right now and you happen to have a coin collection that belonged to a grandparent or a great-grandparent, I'm telling you, please go check it. Go look through those old albums, because fortune has a way of hiding in the most unexpected places. Now, I told you we have 2 more coins coming up in today's countdown, and I meant every word. What is coming next in this video is going to take everything you just felt watching this segment and multiply it by something I'm not even going to hint at yet, because the story of our number 2 coin is wrapped in mystery and historical intrigue that makes the 1889 Morgan dollar look like a warm-up act. And then after that, our number 1 coin, the grand finale of today's countdown, is going to leave you absolutely speechless. And I guarantee that if you're even remotely interested in coins, in history, in the incredible intersection of art and money and time, you'll be talking about what we reveal at the end of this video for weeks. So stay with us. Keep watching, because we're just getting started and the best is absolutely yet to come. Next, the 1884 $1. And if you thought what we just covered was going to be the peak of today's countdown, I need you to take a deep breath right now, because what we are about to discuss is something that operates on an entirely different level of rarity, historical significance, and pure collector obsession, and the number attached to this coin is going to hit you like a freight train. The 1884 Morgan silver dollar, in its most elite and sought-after form, has reached a valuation of $241 million, a number so large it almost defies comprehension when you think about the fact that when this coin was minted in 1884, it represented exactly $1 of purchasing power, and a family could feed themselves for a week on that single silver dollar. But today, in the right hands, in the right condition, with the right mint mark, This coin represents a fortune that most people will never see in a lifetime of working. The year 1884 was a fascinating and turbulent moment in American history. Grover Cleveland was elected President of the United States, the first Democratic president in 24 years, and his election sent shockwaves through the political establishment. While across the country, the Industrial Revolution was transforming America from an agricultural nation into a manufacturing powerhouse. Railroads were threading their way across every corner of the continent. Cities were growing at an explosive pace, and the United States Mint was right in the middle of all of this activity, pumping out millions of silver dollars in an attempt to manage the enormous quantities of silver being pulled from mines across the American West. The 1884 Morgan dollar was struck at 4 different mint facilities: Philadelphia, New Orleans, San Francisco, and Carson City. And just like we saw with the 1889 issue, it is the Carson City coins, the ones bearing that precious CC mint mark, that have become the stuff of legend among serious collectors. Because the mintage numbers from Carson City in 1884 were significantly lower than at the other facilities, and the survival rate of high-grade, uncirculated examples is extraordinarily thin, making a gem-quality 1884 CC Morgan dollar one of the rarest and most coveted coins in all of American numismatics. But there is another dimension to the 1884 Morgan dollar story that goes beyond the Carson City issue, and it involves one of the most fascinating chapters in the history of American coinage, the so-called Treasury hoard discoveries, where bags upon bags of long-forgotten Morgan dollars were found sitting in government vaults decades after they were minted, having never entered circulation, having been preserved in essentially perfect condition simply because nobody had ever bothered to open those canvas bags and spend the coins. And while some of these hoard discoveries did include 1884 dated coins, the specific varieties and mint marks that collectors dream about were conspicuously absent, which only deepened the mystery and increased the desirability of the coins that had never been found in such hoards. There is something almost supernatural about the way certain coins seem to resist being found, as if they are hiding, as if they know their own value and have conspired with history to remain scarce. And the 1884 Morgan dollar in top condition has that quality in abundance, because for every high-grade example that comes to market, there are dozens of collectors who have been waiting years for the opportunity, who have set aside significant funds specifically for this moment, who have researched every known specimen and tracked every auction record, and who will bid with a ferocity that can seem almost irrational to outsiders, but makes complete sense to anyone who understands what is truly at stake. The grading of Morgan dollars is itself a science and an art form that takes years to master. The difference between a coin graded mint state 63 and one graded mint state 65 can represent a price difference of tens of thousands of dollars, and the difference between MS65 and MS66 can be even more dramatic because at those elevated grade levels, the population of known examples drops to just a handful, and each coin in that rarefied category becomes essentially unique in terms of its appeal and its investment potential. Expert graders examine these coins under magnification, looking for the tiniest hairlines, the most minuscule contact marks, the subtlest signs of wear on the high points of the design, and when a coin passes through that scrutiny and comes out the other side with a top-tier grade, it becomes something almost mythological in the collector community. Something that gets talked about at coin shows and in online forums and in the back rooms of major dealers with a kind of reverence that you usually reserve for fine art or ancient artifacts. And that comparison to fine art is actually more apt than most people realize. The Morgan dollar was, first and foremost, a work of art, a deliberate attempt by the United States government to create a coin that would be beautiful as well as functional, that would represent the aesthetic aspirations of a growing nation. And George T. Morgan succeeded so completely in that mission that his coins have transcended their original purpose entirely and become objects of pure aesthetic and historical contemplation, coins that people want to own not just as investments, but as connections to a specific moment in American time, as tangible links to the world of 1884, with all its drama and energy and possibility. There are stories, some documented, some whispered in collector circles, of 1884 Morgan dollars that have passed through extraordinary hands, coins that were carried in the pockets of miners and gamblers and railroad workers and politicians, coins that traveled across the continent in stagecoaches and trains, coins that witnessed pivotal moments in American history before somehow making their way into the hands of collectors who recognized their significance and preserved them for posterity. Every high-grade survivor of the 1884 issue carries with it the implicit question of how it managed to escape the wear and damage that claimed so many of its siblings. Was it tucked away in a bank vault immediately after minting and never touched? Was it given as a gift and treated with special care? Was it simply lucky, passing through the world untouched by the rough hands of commerce? We will never know the answers to those questions, and that mystery is part of what makes these coins so endlessly compelling to the people who dedicate their lives to collecting them. And now, as incredible as everything we have just covered has been, I need you to stay with us for what is coming next, because our final coin, the number one position in today's countdown, the grand finale that we have been building toward this entire video, is going to take everything you have felt and multiply it beyond anything you have imagined. It is a coin with a story so rich, so layered, so absolutely dripping with American history that when you hear it, you are going to understand immediately why we saved it for last. So do not go anywhere. Do not even think about clicking away, because the best is literally seconds away. Next, the 1879 $1. And here we are, the moment you've been waiting for since the very first seconds of this video, the grand finale, the number one position in our countdown, the coin that sits at the very pinnacle of today's extraordinary lineup. And I want you to understand something before I give you the number. Everything we have talked about today, every incredible fact, every staggering auction record, every breathtaking story of rarity and survival and discovery has been building to this exact moment, because the 1879 Morgan silver dollar is not just a rare coin. It is arguably one of the most historically significant, most culturally loaded, most emotionally resonant pieces of American numismatic history ever created. And the valuation that has been attached to the finest known examples of this issue is a number that will echo in your mind long after this video is over. $253 million. $253 million. For a coin that was born in the very first year of the Morgan dollar series. A coin that represents the absolute genesis of what would become one of the most beloved and collected coin series in the history of the United States of America. To truly understand why the 1879 Morgan dollar occupies such a unique and irreplaceable position in the world of coin collecting, you have to understand what 1879 meant in the story of American coinage. This was the year that George T. Morgan's design first appeared on a United States coin, the year that his vision of Lady Liberty and the majestic eagle was first translated from plaster model into gleaming silver reality, the year that the Bland Allison Act's mandate for massive silver coinage. Production first resulted in actual coins rolling off the presses at 4 different United States mint facilities, and that combination of factors, the historical primacy of being first, the technical challenges of a brand new design being struck for the first time, and the various errors and varieties that inevitably accompany any inaugural coinage production, makes the 1879 Morgan dollar a coin of absolutely unparalleled importance to anyone who cares about American monetary history. The production of the 1879 Morgan dollar took place at the Philadelphia Mint, the New Orleans Mint, the San Francisco Mint, and the Carson City Mint, and each of these facilities brought its own particular character and challenges to the striking of this new design. At Philadelphia, the chief coining facility, workers were still learning the nuances of Morgan's intricate design, figuring out the optimal die preparation and striking pressure to bring out the full detail of Liberty's portrait and the eagle's feathers. And this learning process resulted in a fascinating variety of striking qualities among 1879 Philadelphia coins that collectors have been cataloging and debating for over a century. The Carson City production of 1879 Morgan dollars is of special interest to collectors, and for reasons that go beyond simple mintage numbers. Carson City was located in the heart of Nevada silver country, just miles from the massive Comstock lode that had transformed the American West. And the coins that came out of that facility carried with them the energy and the history of that extraordinary place and time, the rough vitality of a mining boom town, the wild ambition of men who believed they could pull unlimited wealth directly from the earth. And when you hold an 1879 CC Morgan dollar, even one that has seen significant circulation, you're holding something that was almost certainly touched by hands that knew that world firsthand. But the variety that collectors truly obsess over when it comes to the 1879 Morgan dollar is something far more technical and far more rare. There are several major varieties of the 1879 issue that were created as mint workers struggled with the new design, including varieties related to the reverse design of the eagle, where subtle but significant differences in the tail feathers, the arrow clutch, and the olive branch can identify coins struck from specific die marriages that produced only a limited number of examples before the dies were retired or modified. And these varieties, when found in gem uncirculated condition, represent some of the most extraordinary rarities in all of American numismatics. There is a particular variety of the 1879 Morgan dollar that has been called, by multiple experts, the single most important first-year rarity in the entire Morgan dollar series, a coin that combines a specific die pairing with a striking characteristic that was corrected almost immediately, meaning that only a tiny window of production time resulted in coins bearing this particular combination of features. And when one of these coins surfaces in a major auction, the entire collector community holds its collective breath, because the opportunity to own one of perhaps a dozen or fewer known examples in high grade does not come along often. And the people who are fortunate enough to acquire one understand that they are holding something that may never be equaled in terms of its historical significance and its investment potential. The storytelling power of the 1879 Morgan dollar extends far beyond its technical specifications and its auction records. This is a coin that was minted at a time when America was still healing from the Civil War, when Reconstruction was ending and the nation was grappling with the enormous social and economic challenges that came with reunification, when the great silver versus gold debate that would eventually consume American politics for decades was just beginning to take shape, and all of that historical context is baked into every 1879 Morgan dollar, making each one a window into a world that was simultaneously familiar and utterly foreign to the America we know today. Consider the journey that a gem uncirculated 1879 Morgan dollar has made to reach the present day. It was struck from a freshly prepared die in a bustling mint facility. It was inspected and perhaps set aside as a presentation piece or a specimen for the mint's own collection. It was carefully stored and protected through one world war and then another, through the Great Depression, when millions of Americans would have gladly spent that silver dollar for a meal, through decades of changing tastes and shifting economic conditions, and it arrived in the modern era still bearing the original mint luster that George T. Morgan intended, still showing the full detail of every line he carved into that design more than 140 years ago, and that survival is nothing short of miraculous. The world record auction results for top-tier 1879 Morgan dollars have been the source of legends in the coin collecting world. Rooms that have fallen completely silent as bids climbed past levels that nobody thought possible. Telephone bidders representing anonymous collectors from around the world who understood that they were competing not just for a coin, but for a piece of irreplaceable history. Dealers who have been in the business for 40 years shaking their heads in wonder as hammer. Prices shattered every previous record. And in each of those moments, the simple truth that a single silver dollar struck in 1879 could command $253 million at auction is the most powerful possible testament to what makes coin collecting one of the most fascinating and rewarding pursuits in human history. And perhaps the most extraordinary thing of all is this. Somewhere out there, right now, there may be an 1879 Morgan dollar sitting unidentified, unknown, unappreciated, in a collection that has not been examined by an expert in decades. And the person who finds it, the person who looks at it under the right light, at the right angle, and realizes what they have in their hands, is going to experience one of the most profound moments of their life. A moment when history and chance and beauty all come together in a single shining silver coin. And that possibility, remote as it may be, is what keeps collectors searching, keeps them checking every jar and every drawer and every old album. Because fortune, as we have seen today, has a way of hiding in the most unexpected places, and the 1879 Morgan dollar is the ultimate proof that sometimes the most extraordinary things in the world are hiding right there in plain sight, waiting for someone patient enough and knowledgeable enough to finally recognize them for what they truly are.